Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Today I wanted to talk about the Coros Pace 2, but before I jump into it, full disclosure, I did get this watch at a discounted price, but I still paid a good chunk of it out of my own pocket, so my review is unbiased, unscripted, and uncontrolled, and I also want to recognize PlayBetter for allowing me to get into some of these watches. So they are my new go-to store for all my fitness wearables. That's where I got my Instinct, that's where I got this one, that's where I'm getting my Phoenix. So I think it's a place I think you should check out as well. Guys, PlayBetter is your go-to store for all things fitness. You know, they carry all the latest running watches, golf equipment, bicycling. You know, they carry all the major brands. And what really makes them, I think, amazing too is that they have free 2-day shipping on all their purchases, and they have a 60-day return period, which is, I think, a fantastic amount of time for you to really test out your gear. But that they carry everything from golf to all the latest fitness watches, cycling equipment. So if you haven't already, you should jump over there and check them out. And they also have a used section as well. So sometimes you can get a good deal on an open box item or a closeout clearance as well. So go ahead, head over there to playbetter.com, and thank you for your support. They've been very supportive to me, so I want to make sure that I support them as well. Thanks. And I kind of got this watch kind of, on the whim, really. I've been waiting for my Phoenix 7 to show up, and out of boredom, I decided to try the Coros out. They've been kind of making some buzz. It's they keep getting more and more popular. It's becoming kind of one of Garmin's, I think, biggest competitors. So I thought I would kind of check it out just to see what it's like. Now, for those who aren't familiar, this is the Pace 2. It kind of sits on the lowest rung of their offering, but it is one of their newer ones. So even though I probably would have been better off getting like the Apex Pro, that one is a little too old for what they're asking for it. So I figured I'd get this one, and then they have the Vertex 2, which is their newest one, but that's way too much money for my use case. So I decided to get this one, and just to kind of check it out. Now, from a dimension standpoint, this watch is super comfortable, very compact. Very little bezel. It looks very modern. This watch, I think, kind of competes with the Garmin Forerunner 55. And if you look at that one looks like it's about 10 years old. It's got a humongous bezel. They're actually about the same. They're both 42 millimeters in size, but this has a 1.2 inch screen, where the Forerunner 55's got a 1 inch screen. So this one looks, I think, more modern. Now, it's very light, so I thought that my Instinct was light, but this one's almost about 20 grams lighter. So if you think this one's light, even lighter, and it's very, it's thinner, it's more compact. I mean, this is probably one of the most comfortable fitness watches I've ever worn. It just, you don't even feel that you're wearing a watch. So the size is good. The display, I think, is really good too. It's very vibrant color. Being a 1.2 inch screen, you can read data much better on it. Very happy with the screen as well. It is a Gorilla Glass, so it's not sapphire, which is fine. The battery life on this thing has been, I think, pretty good. They advertise it as, I guess, depends how you use it, but I think if you just use it for regular kind of, regular use, you're looking at about 20 days, so about 2 weeks worth. And I've had it for just a little over a week, and I think that's pretty spot on. Granted, I haven't not used any of the GPS yet, because I haven't gone out with this. It's too cold here, and plus, as I've mentioned before, I'm not a runner. Which kind of brings me up to the next point of this watch. This watch really is a runner's watch, which is kind of unfortunate because it does have a strength app, which is why I got it for. I mainly just do strength and cycling and elliptical. It doesn't have an elliptical mode, which is not a big deal because I'm not sure really what benefit that would bring. But it does have biking and it does have strength. But my challenge with it is that it's pretty much running oriented only. So I've done a few workouts with it, and really all the data is blank because you got to run with it. Obviously this one, but fatigue, I don't understand why my elliptical or weight training doesn't, work on this part. or recovery. And then this is just today's stance and heart rate. But yeah, so that's kind of unfortunate that you pretty much have to run to take full use of it. Where on the Instinct, you know, I get my recovery, body battery, you know, pretty much everything. You know, all the measurements, really, with the exception of the running performance, but pretty much everything else I get from just weightlifting and elliptical. So that's probably my biggest downfall of this watch, that it's pretty much running oriented mainly. So that's really the main reason I'm probably not going to hang on to this watch, even though I do like it. The strength app on this thing is really good. I'll get into that in a second, but the fact that you pretty much have to be a runner to fully utilize it, obviously for me that's of no use because I'm not a runner. Due to a motorcycle accident, running just causes me too much pain, so bicycling or elliptical really are my only cardio options. But let's jump into what else do we have here. Oh, the other good thing about this, which is very clever, is that you can actually rotate this watch. So this watch comes, you know, geared towards righties, but me being a lefty, I wear it on this hand, and they let you flip this around, so you can actually, you know, during the settings, specify which side you want this dial on this side or that side. So you can, you know, it'll rotate the screen for you, and then you can also then specify the direction of the scroll in terms of how it responds to the screen, so you can flip that around. So very cool. I wish more watches would do that because, you know, I'm a lefty. As far as the button orientation, this thing, it's pretty good. So it's got, at first glance, 2 buttons, but really it's 4 buttons because this button serves 3 purposes. This is like your scroll up, scroll down, and then select. You know, basically you've got, you know, so, you know, basically up, down, and then select. So these 3 buttons from Garmin are pretty much built into the one. And this is just your dedicated back button, or it can also be your light button as well. So I think you know, at first I thought I was a little worried about the, you know, navigation, but I've actually kind of grown to like this wheel. So actually liked it more than I thought I would, put it that way. But then, you know, once it goes off, you can press the back button, and then that gets it lit up. The other part is the app is, you know, the app, it's a pro and a con. It's much more simplified than its kind of Garmin counterpart. And I'm not sure if that's a pro or a con, because I think, you know, some people may like the simplicity, but then some people may prefer all the data that the Garmin provides. I'm kind of on the Garmin side. I like all the data it tracks. So for me, the simple app isn't really a positive thing. But let's jump into the strength app, because that's kind of the main reason why I got this. So let's jump in here, and I'll show you kind of how it works. So here is your strength app. Here's kind of what I like about it. 2 things. One is from an exercise tracking standpoint, and I'm going to kind of primarily compare this against the Garmin. I mean, this is by far not a good strength tracker when you compare it to like some of the dedicated weightlifting trackers. Like most of them have been kind of unfortunate. Dissolve B Sensor is the only one that's still kind of in business. The other ones have been purchased or out of business. But what those did is they tracked the speed of how you lift the weight. So it would measure kind of your power exerted, which would then give you guidance whether you should be going up in weight or down in weight. This one or the Garmin don't do that to the same degree as some of those dedicated fitness watches. That's one downfall compared to the other ones. And exercise recognition on these things is pretty poor, and that's mainly because you're basically only wearing this on your wrist, so there's only so many things you can track, where again some of the other devices you move around from wrist to elbow to upper arm, which allows you then to track exercises better. So that out of the way, knowing kind of this is a very basic strength training app, I think it does a good job. And here's kind of what I like about it better than the Instinct. So the Instinct tries to recognize your exercises, and it just can't. So it's kind of pointless. Where Coros basically doesn't try to do that. Instead, it makes it much easier. So it lets you select kind of the muscle group. So rather than try to identify each individual exercise, which you know it can't, and basically it turns out to be useless, I'd rather just have this where you can just pick the body part, and then at least you kind of know what area you worked on. Versus like on the Garmin, it tries to identify each individual exercise, or you have to go in there and select. And first of all, I don't want a device that's going to slow my workouts down. If I have to sit there and interact with it for 5 minutes after every set, it defeats the purpose. So I love this one that all you got to do is pick your muscle group and then just work out. This is a much easier and a smarter way of tracking it. I wish Garmin would just incorporate this versus trying to track each individual exercise. So once you pick your workouts, let's just say I'm doing chest. So there we go. Okay. So now you get into the reps. So as far as it counting your repetitions, I think it's maybe a little better than the Garmin. I mean, I think they were both kind of good in some, they were both off, in the same exercises, and they were both spot on the same ones. Exercises where you're kind of isolated, they tend to do a better job. So like a military press, bench press, where your body is kind of staying still, just your arms are moving, it does a good job. But then exercises where you kind of move around, like by standing up when you're curling or something, there's a much more movement that can happen because as you're rocking your back, it can cause the count to be off. But I think it's, I'd say it's a little better than the Garmin. Not a significant one. And then once you complete your part, it goes into rest mode. Oh wait, I hit the wrong thing, I'm sorry. So once you complete your set, you hit this and you go into rest. And again, I like kind of the display changes too. So it goes from an active rep to an active rest screen, which I think is kind of cool. Which I think is better than the instinct, in part because it's in color, so you can kind of quickly tell a difference between what mode you're in. But then it also gives you can set your rest timer. So like, for example, I put it for 60 seconds, and as you're getting closer, it'll start giving you like an alert that your rest time is about to be up, which I like. And I think that's within about 10 seconds, it'll start giving you vibrations and like audible tones. There we go, see? So now you can just go ahead and start the next one. And now you're moving on to set 2. And then once you complete your chest workout, you can go in and select what you want to do next. Next, if you want to do, shoulders, select shoulders and you're ready to go. So I love that. I mean, to me, this is something I wish Garmin would just copy. I mean, much better than what Garmin does. So that's kind of how the strength app works, really. I'll pull it up here. Okay, so jumping into the app, you kind of see the app is much more kind of streamlined. You don't have a whole lot of menus to pick from like the Garmin. It's kind of fairly basic. And one thing I do not like about it is that anytime you pick one, it makes you rotate your screen. So you're constantly having to kind of, do this, which I really don't like at all. I mean, it makes using it kind of pointless because every time you add a flip, so that's a big kind of downfall for me with this app. I hate how clunky it is that you have to flip like that. But let's look at the exercises here, for example. So right here was a back and bicep day, and you kind of see that it did a pretty good job of isolating which muscle groups I worked on, which was a benefit. As far as heart rate accuracy, I found it to be on par. Now I wore the Garmin along with it just to kind of track, compare, and the Coros and the Garmin were pretty much spot on together. So I would say just as accurate as any other good wrist-based one. Exercise tracking, you can kind of see here. So if we go into, you can kind of see 11 sets, time, intensity. You have to do that manually, so I don't want to mess around with seeing that. But the one thing though on the watch that you don't get is that the calories burned. So in the app you can kind of see your calories, but during your workout this does not show you how many calories you burn. So it's not a field option. So these are the only options I can kind of think of that would be helpful. But calories burn is not one that you can kind of display for your workouts. Let's see here. I think that's pretty much it. So, you know, it's simple. There isn't a whole lot to really go off of here. But the app itself, I'm not a fan of. I think Garmin has a better app experience. But yeah, that's it for that. And then if I just show you, so there's no elliptical mode, but they have just a cardio mode, which is fine because there really isn't anything special about the elliptical that you gotta have an elliptical mode. So not a big deal. But I think it did fine. You know, it tracked it where I would expect it to be tracked. Nothing stood out there. So that's it kind of for the app experience. But overall, the only thing I haven't done yet is biking. That's because it's snowing here again today. But otherwise, that's the only last thing I have not tried yet. Let me stop this. What else can I tell you here? Sleeping. So sleep tracking, I think it does pretty good. Again, it was on par with the Garmin. I actually thought this did a better job of recognizing when I actually go to sleep. So the Garmin sometimes, because I'm often, before I go to bed, I'll often be on the couch watching TV, just kind of sitting still for a long period of time. The Garmin will sometimes start tracking sleep then. This one did a better job. So on the one night I wore them together, Garmin started tracking my sleep 2 hours before this. And, you know, this was an hour ahead, which makes the Garmin would have been 3 hours ahead. So, you know, on par, but maybe the Garmin's a little better there. I think that's kind of all I really have to kind of cover on this watch. So overall, I think it's a good watch. It's just not for me. I think if you're a runner, this is a great watch. At the price point of $200, I mean, granted, I haven't used the Garmin Forerunner 55, but I feel like I would take this over the Forerunner, just from looks alone. I'm not a big fan of the giant bezel on the Forerunner, and you know, this one is just, I think, a very cool looking watch. The screen is pretty vibrant and very light. I mean, it's a great watch. If I was a runner, I would like it more. Just the fact that I can't take advantage of all its offerings is kind of a deal breaker for me. Obviously, the strength app is good, but not good enough to kind of win me over. But this scroll thing is pretty cool. I definitely like that. More than I thought I would. I thought it was really... So it does have barometer too, so it's got all your ABC functions, which is, I think, another kind of cool thing for this price point. So you have a compass, a barometer, altimeter, so you know, kind of a cool add at this price point. So yeah, so this is kind of you know, I was hoping this would be more like a Vivo Active is what I was kind of hoping for, because it has all the multi-sport options. I just didn't realize that it doesn't really track them, and that it's really mainly a runner's watch. So anywho, thanks for tuning in, and if you have any questions, let me know.